Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and it is postseason time in the NBA. It's at least past the regular season, whatever you want to consider the play-in tournaments. We've got futures bets here for you guys as we get ready to get into this postseason. So we're going to be looking at a few of those futures here in this one, but we've also got best bets for that Western Conference play-in games, as well as player props for those games. Also going to be having the same thing coming for those Eastern Conference play-in games as well. And then we'll be with you throughout the whole postseason through those finals. So make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com and make sure you're checking out everything we're putting up on the site, NBA-wise and otherwise, as we get into this MLB season as well. Lots going on there. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Nate, what's your first future bet that we're playing here for this NBA postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I hate this as a Celtics fan, but I'm going to take Western Conference at even money, minus 110, to be the winner here, because really, I don't think a single other team in the Eastern Conference can win the title. So you're taking the field over the Boston Celtics, which is, great odds to take the field. I mean, literally, you cannot make me an argument that says any of these teams can win the title. The Knicks and Sixers, with their injury situation, like if they made it through the East, would be completely exhausted, just like what happened to Miami last year, who punched above their weight. If Miami does it again, they were just a fly for Denver to swat off by the time they got there. The Bucks and Cavs are in disarray. Indy and Orlando, way too green, way too young. And in the West, I mean, everybody's penciling Denver in, and sure, they should be the favorite. But honestly, there's 9 teams. I guess you don't count the Kings. I guess I might not count the Clippers at this point, but the Clippers are among the teams that have showed a championship form at some point this season. Like, I mean, the Suns, it's only like a 2-3 game stretch, but it's like, oh my God, they look great. Look, like all of these Western Conference teams have shown that when they get to their peak, they're good enough to win. They've beaten Denver. They could do it again in a series. Dallas is playing extremely well. So, I mean, to me, yeah, you're getting like 8 horses against one, even though the Celtics, I do feel, are the best team. But and a bunch of different things could happen, right? An injury, another sense of choking because they are expected to win the title, and because their superstars are still pretty young. Or Joe Mazzulla just not being able to make the right adjustments at the right time as a second-year coach. So, give me the whole West.
I mean, let me just put it to you this way, right? Like, the Mavs are the 5 seed. Let's assume Kawhi's healthy and that this Clippers team is going to do what it's tried to do for years now, which is just suck its way through the regular season until it gets to the playoffs and be like, we got it now, which I don't believe in. So I'm with you that, like, they're one of the teams in that top 6 or 7 that I'm like, I don't know, man. But let me just ask you, like, if you got the Mavs at the 5 seed, and I'll do it before the Suns because they're so inconsistent, I hate even betting on them. But, like, when do you get to it? Like, you got to get to, there's only one team that you take in the East over the Mavs, for instance, right? That's where we're at. Like, I trust the Mavs more than the Knicks right now. That's about where I'd put them. The 2 seed in the East is roughly the 5 seed in the West, and you could make the argument that the Mavs should be the 4 seed at this point over the Clippers. And so either way, you get my point. I'm using all that to say I agree with you. I chose not to go with the minus 110 because I still feel so confident in the Nuggets, and that is my first future here, is that I'm still just going to hit them with a chip. It's plus 280, and this is just a comp between the 2 best teams in the league. I think it's tier 1 is the Celtics and the Nuggets. Tier 2 is just everybody, whoever else you want to put on there. Probably 3 Western Conference teams, right? Is the next tier after that first tier. And I think that's important so that you can separate like which teams have a legitimate shot at winning and which don't. And tier 2 is probably full of three of those Western Conference teams. And so if the Nuggets can't get out of the West, maybe I'm worried about it. But like, they've got the second best 3-point defense in the league. They know what they're about when they play the Celtics team. It's why they've won 3 of 4 against them. The Celtics hit 50% almost of their threes in the game that they did beat the Nuggets at the beginning of last season in November of 22. So like, it's been a while, and really this Nuggets team, like I said, knows what it's about. There's no answer for Joker. That's a huge part of this, right? Is like, what's your answer for Jokic? And I'm not sure anybody does have it. I guess, if Joker didn't love just owning Rudy, I'd be like, well, that's the team that has a shot at the best shot in the postseason on either side of the conferences of beating the Nuggets. But then, Jokic just goes ahead and pwns him. Brother, I have 47. So there's nobody that I would give that edge to. I would give them the edge over all of it. He's averaged basically a 30-point triple-double versus the Celtics. And that's what the majority of this bet is predicated on, is that I do think you could take an exact finals matchup between those teams as well. It's going to be the smallest amount of juice, obviously, but you're still going to get plus money to project that exact matchup versus these two teams. And I just don't see it. I mean, look, short of the Heat doing it again, right? Like, we were all ready to pencil that finals matchup in last season until the Heat did that again, and I get that, but yeah, I'm not banking on that happening twice. I don't trust the Joel injury. That's the part of the Celtics that's the team to me that could beat them in the Eastern Conference more than anybody. I'm out on this Bucks team. I don't know that anybody's going to be in on him. I understand Giannis has shown us to come back from a seemingly season-ending injury just to take his team to the finals and win it against the Suns, but I'm not going to bank on that happening again. And that team also had Drew Holiday, which this one does not, and that is a big difference, in my opinion. That I still don't know that was a great trade. I understand most people in the world would do that 99 times out of 100, but if you don't believe in the Bucks or the Knicks or really the 76ers at this point to beat the Celtics, then yeah, and I don't, because I think Embiid on one leg is just going to continue to be a problem. He got hurt again in one of the last games of the season that he did play, the second to last game of the season. Retweaked that knee, came back and looked like the slow Joel that we've seen, right? So I'm not even talking about the Nuggets, because I think we all know what this 5-man rotation is capable of. And you could make the argument that the Celtics have a better net rating versus as with their 5-man lineup than this Nuggets team. And I get that, they do. But I also just watch this Celtics team really, inflate that number in that net rating, because of when they play a team like the Hornets or the Pistons at home, they are happy to just rain threes down on them, and that's their game. And so it looks a little bit uglier, and that's what we've seen. But I'm not worried about their ability to smack soft teams. I'm now worried about their ability to beat a team that is at least as good as it, if not, which I would say is a little bit better in the Nuggets. So even if the Celtics come out of the East, I still just think it's the Nuggets series, the really championship to lose at this point, and I don't see them doing that.
Yeah, I mean, if you do take this leap, you are in much better position to hedge, right? If things do play out as we're predicting, like, do you think the Celtics would be plus 120 in this finals matchup when we get down to it, or would they be with home court advantage? I mean, it depends how good each team looks, whether injuries happen, but you could at least hedge with the Celtics at like even money. If you got that Denver plus
right now, right now, would you say that that's a like if they played right now, where would you put the series price for Boston? Probably 1 to 120, right?
Yeah, I would think that Celtics slight favorites with home court, and that they might go like literally 16-1 through the Eastern Conference. They should go like just dominate this Eastern Conference en route to the finals, as the odds indicate. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, my instinct is like, that's boring. I hate Denver winning this again, and I just want to see somebody knock them off. So I recuse myself for trying to bet that. I do really like the Mavs and the way they've played down the stretch here. My pick here is them to beat the Clippers, which is even money in that series. It actually opened at plus odds some places, and then people were jumping on that because I mean, unexpected things happen in sports, but these teams are miles apart in terms of how they've played the last third of the season. Luka Doncic, if you just took the last 20 games, is the MVP of the league, and the Mavs are probably the best team in terms of overall net rating. I mean, they went 12-1, then they sat their guys the last two with the number one defensive rating and rebound percentage in that span. Clippers, they struggle to rebound. They've struggled everywhere defensively, even before Kawhi started missing games. Kawhi is legit questionable with knee inflammation. I mean, you could say, well, he's trying to avoid what's happened in the recent postseasons where he played through a knee issue for the first two games, and then the load became too much. He went down. But this is the most games he's played in the season still, even with sitting out those last six. That he's played since 2017. So, I mean, he's been out since March 31st, and Ty Lue was legitimately at least playing games to say, like, I don't know if he's going to play. I'm sure Kawhi will be out there. I'm sure he'll probably drop 30 in game one. Maybe even the Clippers get game one. I don't think they can deal with the depth of talent that the Mavs have and the continuity that they've started to develop in terms of playing around those bigs they acquired. And if Kawhi in any way is not himself, like, are you trusting PG and James Harden with their first round resume to carry you through against the hottest team in the league? Of course not. I mean, James Harden, the last time we saw him in the playoffs, could not get by anybody. And how is that going to initiate your offense? Like, you're just going to be completely dependent on Kawhi being superhuman against a team that has the best setup guy right now. And Luka shooting 40% from deep on the road in the playoffs absolutely killed this Clippers team, as we remember, twice before. So, I mean, I like the even odds there. And then I think you can sprinkle, rather than taking the Mavs to just like win the title, let's just take them to meet Denver in the Western Conference Finals at nearly 5-1, that being the matchup. Because now that they're 5-2, that would be the first time they can meet here, right? So I would back both those teams to do very well here in these playoffs.
Yep. Yeah. If you didn't say it, I was going to throw out the plus 475 for the Denver Dallas Conference Finals. Just I have not loved a Dallas Mavericks team more than I do this season. It's impossible because Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington have legitimized their ability to defend down low. They don't have, it's not JaVale McGee rim running anymore down there. It's not undersized Grant Williams trying to guard dudes bigger than him and use his trickery, if you will, to defend dudes. It's now it's like a legit down low. I mean, you've got Derek Lively coming in as well now. The rook should be available after they shelved him for the last like handful of games to make sure that he was ready for the playoffs, knowing their seeding was pretty much secure. So any way you want to play that, but I'm gonna basically just piggyback off of that and say like, well, let me parlay a couple series prices. I love the series prices. Series spreads, right? So the series spread parlay I've got Dallas plus 1.5. Love that. Didn't even want to like get too greedy with it. Just I was like, there's no way they're losing in 6 if they lose this series in IMO. But the Indy stuff as well against Milwaukee, that might be a little bit one, but I'm using that in there as well. So you get plus 120 if you throw both of those teams in there. I'm just gonna also say, like, I was gonna talk about Orlando just winning the series straight up, but I would also take them if you throw them in there at plus 1.5 as well for the series spread against Cleveland. Now you're talking about plus 230 on your money as opposed to the plus 120 if you keep it to the 2-teamer. And it's it's a little bit chalky in this, not chalky, but it's a little bit newbie feeling in the sense that you got a 3-leg parlay for plus 230. Plus 260 as I look at it here, plus 267. So it's still a little bit better, but I understand what that looks like. It's just I like all 3 of those teams could easily win. I mean, I expect Dallas to win. And Indy, I love it with the price without Giannis in there. I mean, Indy's won 3 of 4 this season, right, against this team. I believe actually it might be 4 or 5 with the play-in, and the play-in stuff as well. So they've kind of owned Milwaukee. It was a little bit of a different matchup when those 2 teams played last in January because of the fact that one, Giannis was in, so that would be a benefit to the Bucks. But also, it was a different team with Bruce Brown still on the Pacers, right, and no Pascal Siakam. So those things were going to like 260 totals like we saw. But I love Tyrese Halliburton in these situations. I love being able to bet on someone that I know is going to go absolutely balls to the wall when it comes to these games, like we saw him do in the play-in tournament. And yeah, they've been a little bit more mediocre since the All-Star break, and his numbers might be a little bit more mediocre during the All-Star break, about 17 points per game, still up at 9.5 assists per game since the ASB. And that injury has been huge for him. And we know that he was rushed out there to play games even at 20 minutes a game for a long time because they wanted to make sure he got his games in so he could make his money. That story's come out. Now we're talking about a Pacers team that I think, when locked in, is going to be putting up $120 in these playoffs moving forward, and they've actually averaged $129 against this Bucks team, who has gotten better on defense because they got Pat Bev. That's been a huge part of this, obviously, but without Giannis, like, they got nothing down low. And this Pacers team going to the basket, we know that most of their points are either going to come from 3 or driving to the rim, and you're going to just see an influx of dudes attacking the rim, like an Obi Toppin, even like an Aaron Nesmith, obviously Tyrese when he gets in there, and even Miles Turner has scored a few more buckets down low as of late, and then Pascal will be their low post presence, right? And that's something that I think against if you keep let's say at this point without Giannis in there, I do believe he'd be guarding Pascal, right? That was the matchup the last time that they faced off. Like, without Giannis down there, if you're talking about leaving Brolo down there on Pascal, then he can bring him out to the 3-point line and keep him away from the basket, which I don't think Milwaukee wants. We know that they want Brolo playing that drop defense so that they have at least some rim protection. But if you're talking about Bobby Portis on Pascal, Bobby Portis, that ain't going to work for me if I'm the Bucks, right? So that's another. There's just edges in these matchups individually without Giannis on there all over the floor now. He just completely disfigures the math without him there, and that's been the case. Their defensive rating without him is 8 points per 100 worse this season, giving up about 8 more points. And only because they play a little bit faster with him do you see like the offensive rating actually, the points per game actually go up for the Bucks by a point without Giannis this season. But the defense just can't help itself. Like even if you play faster or slower, it doesn't matter. That defense is still about 122 defensive rating without Giannis this season in 8 games. And that ain't going to cut it against this team. They have gotten better at getting back in transition. I will give them credit for that. Their fast break points to the opponent has gone down, but the transition defense is still the same, right? And the difference being transition, it can just be even after a made basket. It's just you rush that thing down the court and look to get a basket up before a shot up before this Bucks team can get their defense set. And that's been the problem, is transition defense for the Bucks specifically, still in the bottom 5 in the league in terms of limiting allowing points per game in the transition specifically. So I love that. I'm not even going to bother messing with the Dallas stuff. You nailed it with all the stuff you're talking about. Luka all day, every day now at this point with a legit defense is a legit team to make it to the conference finals for sure, depending on that matchup with maybe the Thunder. But these 2 series for sure, I like being able to get the +1.5.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Pacers pushing it to at least 6, regardless of what happens. Maybe 7. Depending on Giannis's health. There is the disrespect factor, right? That the Bucks appeared to have completely tanked to get out of the 2 seed. Like, I think this finally explains why they lost to the Grizzlies and Raptors and what in succession, is they were like, let's duck out of this 2 seed. We do not want Joel Embiid in the first round. We get the Pacers. But Halliburton, yeah, I mean, he is not a guy you want to see necessarily, even though he doesn't have that playoff experience. He does have the play-in experience. And the Bucks have been in disarray. I would maybe look somewhere else though, because I think now that that we're into this new season, we might see a Bucks team you're more familiar seeing. And I don't know if the Pacers can really push them throughout an entire series, but we'll see. I mean, we don't have the full market of series prices to choose from. I'm going to make one more pick that is more of the play-in based future here, which is the Warriors to make the playoffs is +320. And then if you're going to bet that, if you're going to assume they beat the Kings on Tuesday, you might as well take a piece of the Pelicans and the Lakers to miss. I realize the Lakers are all the way +425 and the Pelicans are +360 to miss the playoffs, because one of those 2 teams obviously has to lose to the Warriors on to lose out on the 8 seed. And so even if you bet both of those, I think you're still looking at close to 5-1 on your money. With that all combined together, because either one would be about +700 when it hits. I mean, they'll let somebody else crunch the numbers on that, but the point is the Warriors are playing extremely well down the stretch here. Number 3 net rating in the clutch since the All-Star break. We're talking +41 net in the clutch in their last 6, 82 defensive rating. The Kings have fallen apart. They're missing 2 of their key offensive players, so we covered why we think they're going to win that one here. If they do get the Pels have been awful in the clutch. Just part of the reason, like the Lakers there. And I think Draymond does a very good job on Zion. You've seen it 4 career meetings against the Warriors with Draymond active. He's averaged 25 a game, Zion, but on 46% shooting compared to, he shoots nearly 60% at home this season. He has 4.5 turnovers and 3.5 assists. That's a 97.5 rating compared to the 120 offensive rating that he's posted in normal home games. So for the Pels to lose both home games here, where they've been just actually awful since the All-Star break at home, especially in fourth quarters and in tight games, it's a scenario I could see happening here against 2 very veteran-savvy teams in terms of the Lakers beating them, then the Warriors beating them. So if you are picking one horse to bow out here, I guess it's the Pelicans in my mind, but you brought up the interesting point that if the Lakers are going to duck the Nuggets, they might have the confidence to say, we're actually going to lose this first play-in game and go for the 8 seed and take on the Warriors in a win-or-go-home situation. But either way, I mean, if you get the Dubs win here, you're going to be holding a money line ticket for 5-1 if you just bet this now.
Right. This is I got to recheck real quick. Who plays first? The Lakers play first, so
yes.
they can't scoreboard watch.
Maybe the NBA did that on purpose.
I do wonder. We've also got the Pellies. New Orleans is it the East Eastern time zone, right? Like the Pellies are the weirdest West team probably in the country. Like they might be Central at latest, but they're closer to the East than they are the West. Let's put it that way. So that's obviously why that game goes first. Maybe a little bit though convenience for the league that they're like, well, this is the only team we could see, bucking that. I'm not going to bank on that, man. I'm going to bank on everybody trying to win. Honestly, I'm gonna play like that here moving forward. So the other one the other bet here to keep the futures going for 1 sec is just the Orlando to win. I am going to take them at plus 165 on DraftKings right now. That was the best price. I make sure you line shop that. I'm not going to do it right this second, but that was the best price roughly an hour ago. And things are moving, so definitely line shop it. But look, I'm going to fade a team that is just doesn't have its stuff together, man. It's just that simple for Cleveland. I understand the hesitancy to back a team that has not made a legit playoff. Look, they were the 8th seed a couple times. They've been the 8th seed a million times for the last 20 years. But really, they just crawl into the Eastern Conference 8th seed is like they would be like the 13 seed in the West, right? So it's not like I give it that much credit. But this series here, like, there's a couple things I'm looking at. One, the Cavs in complete disarray, right? I don't know how you just expect to just put it all together after you're coming in off of some bad losses. Obviously, that Charlotte twice now in their last 10 games, they've lost to Charlotte twice. They lost to some good Western Conference teams, but the minute that they play anybody that's been good over their last 10, they run into immediate trouble. They beat the 76ers without Joel still by 3. And look, like, Donnie Mitchell in and out of the lineup has been terrible for them. Evan Mobley's come back and figured it out, and him being on the floor is fine at this point, but we know what he is. He's 14 points, 7 to 8 boards, and hopefully some pretty good defense on your best other player. But the other thing here is, like, I don't talk about coaches much, but I got to be honest, like, JB Bickerstaff is unimpressive, and Jamal Mosley has had large moments of the season where you're like, is this the coach of the year? This dude is doing a lot with much less than most teams. And now you've got a fully healthy Cavs team, Magic team that's coming in a way different scenario. And one of the players that's going to make a huge difference in this Magic series is Sir Jonathan Isaac. And we don't get to talk about him that much, but when he's been in this season, he has been an absolute monster. He played 58 games this year. He's got an individual defensive rating of below like 106. And this Magic team actually has a defensive rating that is 2 or almost 3 points better per 100 when Jonathan Isaac is in this season. So we've seen him completely shut down some of the other team's best wing players. I do think that Evan Mobley, if he is guarded by Jonathan Isaac, is going to have a ton of issues with this series, and it will probably be a net, let's say, neutral at best, if not negative, once he's out there versus Jonathan Isaac with his inabilities on offense. So it's just been like all season I've been waiting to back this Magic team in the right spot, and I think they've proven to me what I thought for most of the year, which is like, especially when they're at home, they're going to hang with teams. If they pull out one of these games in Cleveland, you're going to see this series price all the way down at like minus 150 at that point. To be honest, that's how I view it. The way that I look at this Magic team is a little bit how I kind of look like at this Thunder team, that they're just a little bit early to things, and we don't realize some things about their defense, like what you've been talking about with Jalen Suggs. You put Jalen Suggs and Jonathan Isaac on the floor at the same time in their 2-man lineup, their defensive rating is a 101. Right. So that's very good. That would be best in the league overall in general. Nobody has 101 defensive rating overall. Right. So, that's where I'm at with it, is the defense, the Cavs' inability to score. They have no continuity on offense, which is why we've seen even though their offensive rating has gone up and their defense rating gone down, in their last 10, it's evened out. So they're still like 17th in offensive rating, 16th in D rating. And if their defensive rating isn't in the top 5, then I just have zero trust in their offense. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, their 2-man lineup over the course of their last 10 games together was a -5 net rating. And Donnie Mitchell was a huge part of that. But once you put them on the floor together, I still don't trust them. I don't trust Jared Allen and Evan Mobley together. And I think JB Bickerstaff will probably be in search for a job after another bad first-round loss this season.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is are they going to get tight if they start to struggle in this series because or are they just going to quit? Because the way the Knicks took their spirit last year in the first round. I mean, if reports are that Donnie is still not healthy, yeah, you got to worry about this Cavs team. But I mean, Orlando, I don't know. I've been talking about how they cannot beat good teams all year. Are the Cavs a good team? Are the Bucks going to? Are these two teams going to suddenly look like who we thought they were now that we're into the second season, or are they just going to be the shell of themselves that they were down the stretch here. Be interesting to watch. But yeah, I mean the plus 165, I guess, is worth a little dabble here because it is a toss up. It's teams that are going to muck it up, play a lot of low scoring games, and if you say there's a coaching edge for Orlando, then that could be the difference.
That's where I'm at. So, look, a lot of futures bets that we've got here for you. I think there's definitely some value to be had. So definitely make sure that you are jumping into those series prices and such and giving them a look. But I think those are some 6 solid futures bets that we can place here for you guys. So as that is all the time we have for you, continue to follow along. We have a ton of other stuff up, the Western Conference games, player props and best bets, the like, as well as these Eastern Conference ones that come up on Wednesday this week. So definitely continue to tail and follow along. Until we see you next, happy betting.